Meanwhile, Republicans won big last fall, not simply because they weren't the party of Hillary Clinton, but because they promised to undo key parts of Barack Obama's legacy. So far, they haven't. Congressional Republicans could not come together to repeal Obamacare. They did not defund Planned Parenthood. They definitely don't want to build a border wall. But now, almost 10 months into the Republican Congress, top Republicans on Capitol Hill have finally found an issue they can really rally around: preserving President Obama's immigration policies. The Trump administration has announced that next Tuesday it will decide the fate of DACA. That's an Obama-era program which, apparently illegally, gives work permits to illegal immigrants who arrived in this country as children. Killing that program would fulfill one of the Trump campaign's promises. It would also fit with the Republican Party's stated position against amnesty and in favor of enforcing the law rather than granting politicized immunity. Yet Republican leaders in Congress are scrambling to preserve DACA. This morning, in a radio interview, Speaker of the House Paul Ryan begged the president to keep the program in place until Congress can pass a bill granting amnesty to the illegal immigrants DACA covers. Listen.
I actually don't think he should do that, and I believe that this is something that Congress has to fix.
Speaker Ryan is not alone in that position. Congressman Mike Coffman of Colorado says he wants to force a vote on the so-called Bridge Act. It's a Democrat-crafted bill that would give legislative sanction to DACA. Lindsey Graham of South Carolina is backing the same bill in the Senate. Also in the Senate, Tom Tillis of North Carolina is already crafting amnesty legislation he is calling conservative, a conservative alternative to DACA. According to news accounts, Tillis's bill would give 2.5 million illegal immigrants a pathway to citizenship, provided they lack a serious criminal record, opposed apparently to an unserious one. Tillis is already on the record opposing a border wall. He's an avid supporter of allowing low-wage workers from foreign countries into this country. So don't count on his legislation doing anything to stem the future flow of illegal immigrants. We're supposed to believe this is the conservative position. The only thing it conserves is President Obama's policy priorities. Given all of this, it's also worth noting that 3 years ago, when he was running for the Senate and actually trying to appeal to voters, Tom Tillis promised that he opposed amnesty and insisted the border had to be secure before any other kind of immigration reform became law. Looks like he didn't mean any of that. We asked Senator Tillis to come on tonight. He declined. But we'll bet if we asked him or any other pro-amnesty Republican on the Hill, what's wrong with enforcing the immigration laws on the books? They'd tell you it's cruel to deport people who've lived here for a while. Okay, that's a fair point. But it would be easier to take if our elites showed a similar concern for hurting American citizens, and there are many of those, like the 1 in 4 of working age who don't have jobs right now, or the 14 million on disability, the 1 in 6 on antidepressants, the more than 50,000 who died of drug ODs just in the last year. That's almost as many as were killed during the entire decade of the Vietnam War. You hear about those people occasionally here in Washington. You hear about those poor DACA kids a lot more, and that tells you everything. Donald Trump ran in 2016 with almost no support from the Republican establishment. In many cases, they actively denounced him. They almost all despised him. But he won anyway because his campaign promises had powerful appeal, and Republicans on the Hill were able to benefit by extension. Rather than take advantage of their good luck and consider whether they ought to try to help the president achieve those campaign promises, Republicans have repeatedly shown that their campaign pledges were lies and that their chief interest is in protecting the tiny donor class that funds their campaigns. They show more affinity in many cases for President Obama's policies than they do for the current president's. No wonder that Congress's approval ratings are generally lower than those of our historically unpopular president. When a bunch of Republicans are crushed in next fall's congressional elections, they'll try to blame the president. It might have been easier just to listen to the president's voters. Cesar Vargas is an illegal immigrant, and despite that, a licensed attorney in the state of New York, and he joins us tonight. Cesar, thanks a lot for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Tucker.
So every time we've had a conversation about DACA or the Dreamers, it comes up, the person you're talking to always says, look, a lot of these people are worthy, they're decent, they're Americans, essentially. And by the way, I agree with all that. I think there are a lot of really decent people caught up in this, and I feel sorry for them. But I also think there's a principle here that we shouldn't ignore. And so I'm wondering, if we give amnesty to the people President Obama gave amnesty to, who were brought here by their parents, when does that stop? Or do we owe citizenship to anyone under 18 who makes it into this country illegally? Like, what are the parameters on this?
Well, no one's giving amnesty to anyone. Amnesty just means that you are forgiving someone's pretty much, whether it's a crime or whether it's an offense. What the president did to Arpaio, that's amnesty. But what we're hearing is on immigration is giving us a path to legal status, earning our opportunity to be in this country. That is a whole different aspect than amnesty. We're not asking any freebies. We're not asking any free time. We're not asking just give me a citizenship and give me a free car. No, we're asking for us to say, hey, give me an opportunity to prove that I'm contributing to the country. Let me serve the country, the military, and give me the chance to become a U.S. citizen.
Okay, but again, I'm not contesting that a lot of these people are good people and probably are serving the country in one way or another. But it is amnesty and it is special treatment. If I'm coming here from any other country in the world, I have to go through a process, and I can't be here while I go through that process. I wait in line at some embassy or consulate in a foreign country, sometimes for years. And these people aren't having to do that. They're getting special treatment. So let's not pretend. Let's not lie about it. This is amnesty. Because if it wasn't amnesty, you'd say leave the country and reapply like everybody else.
But you're pointing out to something so significant, which is, that's right, we shouldn't have people waiting 20, 30 years to come here. We shouldn't have a process where people are risking their lives through the desert, through the seas, risking their lives where people are losing their homes, their everything, just to come here. We should have an opportunity to reform our outdated immigration system so we don't have to have that, right?
Wait, why? I mean, it's our country, and we have a right to determine who comes here, right? You're not saying it's the fault of the United States that people are dying trying to get here, are you?
Oh, but, we have had an immigration system that has been revised throughout since the early days of the Republic. We had Italian, German immigrants who were literally jumping ship on Ellis Island and coming here illegally. And what we did, we actually gave people an opportunity to get right with the law.
You're missing my question.
Here now, Tucker.
Okay, no, but you seem to be suggesting that the United States doesn't have a right to make people wait to get citizenship, and you also seem to be suggesting that the United States is somehow morally responsible for people dying trying to get here. And I'm just wanting to make absolutely certain that that's what you're saying, because I think most people would find that ludicrous.
No, what I'm saying is that let's have a system that is up to date with our economic demands, there's up to date with our social demands, where we are having people who are coming in from different parts of the world who are contributing to the country. And
okay,
yes,
well, first of all, wait, hold on.
No one's saying that, hey, give me citizenship tomorrow.
There's no economic demand for low-wage immigration. 1 in 4 Americans is not working right now, okay? So there's no economic, let's just be completely clear. We don't need any more low-wage workers in this country. No economist will tell you that we do. This is a political demand.
President Trump, who has hired undocumented immigrants, who his golf courses and his casinos have hired H-2A visas, which are unskilled or sometimes skilled labor. And so our president has
slow down. You're missing you're missing the point. Or in fact, you're making mine. Employers are totally in favor of low-wage immigration because it lowers their labor costs. I'm merely saying the rest of the country, those of us who are not employers, are hurt by it. That's the point. So there's no economic imperative to do this. But you're still dodging my core question, which is, does anyone under 18 who gets to this country illegally have a right to the pathway you just described? Or is there anybody we can say, you're not here legally, leave and reapply like everybody else? Do we no longer have the right to say that to people?
Well, we have a right for us to say, for myself, for me to be contributing to the country I call home. I came here through the border as a little baby, but my parents came here also crossing the border because they had no legal channel. You know what? We're here now. We're contributing. We're paying taxes.
So you're not answering my question because
making a community. So my thing is like, this is our home. This is our opportunity.
No, but you know what? You're making an emotional appeal. I'm trying to have slow down. I'm trying to have an adult conversation with you and ask you real questions, and you're giving me this is our home, which I don't deny. And I'm not attacking you personally. But
of course,
there are 320 million people in this country. It's a big country. And they want to know, do they have the right to determine who comes here or not? And you and a lot of other people on the left are in effect arguing, no, they don't. And that if you're not for it, if you're not for illegal immigration, you're some kind of bigot. And my question is, like, on what grounds are you saying that? Don't Americans have the right to determine who comes to their country? Not your country, Americans' country. Don't they have that right?
Well, listen, we're a nation of immigrants. We are a nation where people have come here legally and illegally as well. And you know what? We have thrived very well, and we're going to need a system where our Congress and our president can come together. So my message to your viewers is for us to say, listen, it's not about being an immigrant.
You're giving me a nonsense answer. Everybody does. Why doesn't someone come on this show who's just willing to look in the camera and say, look, I don't believe in borders. I think they're racist. We shouldn't have any borders. So anyone who wants to come here has the right to come here.
I'm not saying I don't believe in borders.
Of course that's what you're saying.
I don't believe in illegal.
You're all saying that, and you don't have the huevos to say so.
Our history has had a change where we need to actually adapt to changing times. And that's just what we're doing now. We're not staying in the back, and our nation needs to move forward.
Okay. Cesar, thanks a lot for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, Tucker.